Thank you for the introduction. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased for the presence of my colleague, Mr. Pavel Demeš, as I would like to start with a short comment on his speech. In the first part of his speech, he, inter alia, stated that neither the science nor the academic community or the Church propose a solution to the critical phenomena in the political and the social life. He claimed that they are rather surprised by the situation and are unable to react. Frankly, my colleague spoke my mind, despite the fact that till this day I have devoted my life to the academic world. I have to admit that the academic community of the University Provenance and the scientific community alike do very little to solve the critical phenomena in Europe, or at least to understand the essence of the critical phenomena very little. This too has inspired me to announce my speech reflecting on the issue of New Europe in the context of axiological pluralism and the pluralism of cultures, as the subtitle, the issue of conflict and of the dialogue of cultures, is crucial for the understanding of the current situation in Europe and the situation foreseen in the near future. Among the critical phenomena that accompany the social-political life in Europe, we encounter undoubtedly the expressions of extremism, terrorism, which have been mostly related to the contemporary wave of migration and the immigration from the Islamic cultures and civilization. What are the reactions to this mobility in Europe? My studies lead me to the conclusion that the most frequent reactions to the immigration from the region of Islamic culture in Europe are Islamophobia, or trivialization of Islam and the culture clash or the dialogue of cultures related to it. Before I start, I would like to note that it is necessary to define the term Islamophobia. The academic world owes a lot to our society because of this. We do not define all terms as they deserve it. We did not take a lesson from Francis Bacon and his theory of idols, explaining the significant role of language in the comprehension and the incomprehension. Islamophobia is a term which started occurring in the public frequently in the 1980s, and the Islamists played a big role in that. Islamists who try to convince us that any fear of Islam has no justification, and on the other hand, if someone expresses doubts of the Islamization of Europe, he shall be considered a xenophobe or an Islamophobe. What an irony. Obviously, after 9/11, the term acquired a completely different sense, and unfortunately the meaning of the word includes the xenophobia. Let's admit that. Not only in Slovakia, but also in Germany, there are plenty of such expressions. I decided to approach this issue from a perspective which could be an alternative of multiculturalism. With all due respect to Charles Taylor and to all the representatives of multiculturalism who did plenty of admirable work, I came to the conclusion that the original traditional version of multiculturalism is a concept satisfactory to solve the issue of the encounters of different cultures. However, it is unable for the understanding of the phenomena related to the clashes of the Islamic and non-Islamic cultures in Europe. What is it? Simply said, the traditional multiculturalism in its humanic euphoria imagined the dialogue between the cultures as a simple opportunity for mutual enrichment. That's nice if it's real. However, the traditional multiculturalism either forgot or did not take into account what we now do take into account, the fact that clashes might occur between cultures which are distinct, incommensurable, and even mutually excluding. And in this case, we cannot talk about any enrichment. This is the argument against the trivialization of Islam, which did not realize the possible consequences, and even now we witness calls like, let's open our Slovak hearts, and so on and so on. Even when it is clear that there is almost no certainty that we will welcome a friend with whom we might share our values. We cannot open our Slovak or European hearts to terrorists. As you know, 3 of the terrorists in the Paris attacks, 3 of them arrived to Paris just 2 months before with a wave of uncontrolled migrants. So even though there is just 1 of them between 100,000, it still represents a danger which we cannot naively open our hearts, even if Gandhi claimed so, but I'm not sure whether this attitude is acceptable in our era. I propose a solution in a concept which is attempts to be an alternative multiculturalism. I call it the cultural pluralism, which is supported by the axiological pluralism. What is it? It's a concept in the field of axiology, the philosophy of values, and the philosophy of culture, which accepts the validity of certain values only in the system of values and the culture where those values originated. The validity of the values there is absolute, but in other systems, in other cultures, which only maintains or develops these values, and so on, those values are either relative or absolutely invalid. Well, and nowadays we encounter the phenomenon of a clash between cultures whose values are commensurable. We cannot compare it by any common standard. They do not permit any fusion, approximation, quite the opposite. They lead to conflicts and confrontation. And now, let me tell you something about the very sensitive issue. Mr. Kasha has proposed that we should use our free critical thinking to call things by their proper name, otherwise we cannot make a progress. I decided to make a very sensitive comparison of Christianity from the aspect of legal, moral and religious norms to prove the values arriving with the migrant culture. Distinctive values cannot be approached in a way suggested by the contemporary multiculturalism. They cannot be approached according to the valid concepts of the human rights of the Euro-Atlantic origins, and that is very problematic. It's serious, not even according to the Migration Convention and so on. We will understand in a short moment. Let's compare Sharia and the Euro-Atlantic concept of human rights. We do not need any specific theological, legal or philosophical education to discover that the radical interpretation of Sharia is at least in 50% incommensurable with and distinct from our concept of human rights. And that does not concern only the punishments. dismemberment, flagellation, stoning of women, or the crucial practices of female circumcision. But this concerns mostly the right to blood feud in the Union, which does not allow a state to enter it unless it abolishes the death punishment. And through the ideology, some blood feud has been infiltrating the Union. This is a very crucial phenomenon. I decided to quote a few verses of Quran in order not to sound as an European indoctrinator. I am not an Islamophobe, and I will never condense to the xenophobic practices and imaginations. I am a simple realist attempting to understand the cultural values different from mine. Let's take, for example, the relation to the unbelievers. I remind you, the auditorium, that Christians and Jews are also considered unbelievers from the point of view of Quran. Let's see. Chapter 4, verse 89. They wish you would disbelieve as they disbelieved, so you would be alike. Muhammad speaks to Muslims, so do not take from them any allies until they immigrate from the cause of the Allah, but they turn away, they seize them and kill them whenever you find them. Or Surah chapter 9, verse 1 to 2. O you who believe, fight those adjacent to you in the disbelievers and let them find you in harshness. And when the sacred months have passed, then kill the disbelievers wherever you find them and capture them. That is the official integral part of the values of a certain, let's say, religious culture. And now, the most controversial part of Quran, and that is in Surah 47, verses 4 to 6. And when you meet those who disbelieve, strike their necks until the wall lays down its burden. That is the command. And if Allah has willed, He could have taken vengeance upon Himself, but He ordered armed struggles to test some of you by means of others. And those who are killed in the cause of Allah, never will He waste their deeds. He will guide them and amend their condition and admit them to the paradise. These are quite strong words, which gave rise to hard feelings even to me when I was first acknowledged to the Quran. This was approximately a year ago when the execution of American journalist was broadcasted. But then I bought a different translation of Quran to Slovak and found out that it does not need to be necessarily that expressive as it happened to the Quran from 2001. Abdul Wahab Debhati is a Muslim living in Bratislava. He translated the Quran and he did not use such expressive language. Instead of killing them, he says, fight them. Instead of kill them, he says, fight them. It's a part, this is slightly different, and instead of strike their necks, it's translated. This part he translates as hit their neck. But the result is the same until the very end. Dear ladies and gentlemen, this is the way it is. Nevertheless, I think it is distinct from and inconsumable with the essence of our culture in terms of legality, morality, and values. Consider, for example, an analogy in the Bible. The New Testament, Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 to 45, explains the relationship to the enemies and the unbelievers from the point of view of Christian Messiah. In the words of Matthew, Jesus said, I quote, "You have heard that it was said, you have to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies, praise those who condemn and pray for those who persecute you. And you should know as well, because Jesus said the sun shines on each of us, and it is a stunning statement. Nonetheless, in my opinion, this is a distinct attitude that people will be confronted with if, along with the migration, a radical interpretation arrives to Europe. But this does not have to happen. See, I wrote there jihad. The last year, I did not hear our journalists differentiate between the different meanings of the word jihad, of the different meanings of the Arabic word. This is our fault again, and the academic community owes us the explanation for such things. Firstly, it should translate the Quran so that each translation of Quran to Slovak does not use different terminology, which is a shame. Secondly, comprehend the basic terminology to comprehend the culture. See, for instance, jihad by heart, by tongue, by hand. This is so-called greater jihad, based on a very consistent effort of self-improvement, of betterment of one's moral and inner spiritual profile, which is not bad at all. Once I said to my students that in this sense I am a jihadist too. I take care of my soul as Socrates and improve my moral profile as much as possible. This is the jihad by heart. Jihad by hand is the analogy of charity. But in our newspapers, and tonight we will read jihadist, without the differentiation whatsoever in the meaning. It is very dangerous. It has to be said that only the fourth meaning of jihad, the jihad by sword, approves an actual fight or aggression in the name of Allah, and so on. We can continue like this, but I mentioned, for instance, gender equality, huge differences in values, the understanding of men and women, mutual relationships. I believe this is incommensurable and therefore incompatible with the current political and legal system which we live in, notwithstanding the differences in Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Poland, France, or Germany. The essence is distinct and incommensurable. The conclusion of my study from this issue is as follows. Only those cultures are capable of a tolerant coexistence within one and the same political legal system, which are commensurable in terms of values. Cultures which are incommensurable in terms of values are unable to coexist in a single political and legal system of culture. These can exist only in conflict, which every now and then arise. Now, as I do not want to sound frightening, my goal was not to be frightening. At the end of my studies of this issue, I found a positive aspect too. In Europe, one of the 12 great Muslim imams, his name is Ahmed Hemaya, works in Europe, and he has not replied to my email so far. Despite the fact that he offered him an email, his last book is called Islam, A Deep Insight. It was issued by the Muslim community in the Czech Republic. For me, it is astonishing because it gives us hope, and I wish to end positively. Ahmad Himaya, once again one of the 12 great imams, he himself has his own mosque in Cairo. He graduated from the most prestigious Muslim university. In his book, he started with words: the biggest and the most sinful of all sins against Allah is if someone kills another man in the name of Allah. This is the kind of platform I can imagine a dialogue with. On the other hand, the greatest vice is to save a life of another man. In his words, he describes jihad. Jihad is not a free ticket for the suicidals. It is a misinterpretation of jihad, and he explains again what needs to be explained. He condemns the female circumcision as something that has nothing to do with Islam. Some fanatics adopted this cruel manner of female torture from the African natural religions, and a lot of other statements are the evidence that there might be by a group of people between the European Muslims. There might be a group of people, and I don't know what is their influence, which could be a real partner for a dialogue. The dialogue, however, cannot be about religious issues. Not even Ahmed Hemaya, despite his mildness, could refrain from the basic religious dogmata. Jesus was, for the Muslims, just a man, a missionary man, the same way Muhammad was. Allah does not have and will not have a son. Allah does not have a will never have a Messiah. These are the topics which we cannot discuss, and I believe that it's important to refrain from using certain words and agree on what shall not be discussed. English philosopher Wittgenstein expressed it in his time in a fantastic way. Wittgenstein stops his philosophical as follows: if we cannot speak about something, we must be silent. It is my belief, though, that there are topics to be discussed because, as it was mentioned in the speech of Professor Luby, we breathe the same air, we drink the same water, which we are, regardless of our location, dependent on and reliant upon. Personally, I believe that there are more of the things that bring us together and that allow us to have a dialogue on the saving of conditions for life on our planet than of the things that dogmatically segregate us. And in my opinion, a dialogue like this should take place. I dedicated my latest book called The Phantom of Immigration, but the phantom can cease to haunt if we understand the background of the entire issue. Francis Bacon said, "Knowledge is power." If we get to know each other, if we know the limits of our dialogue and the possibilities of our dialogue, we can proceed further. The worst thing to do is to stay silent and pretend that nothing is happening. Something is happening, my dear friends. It is happening once again if cultures with incommensurable values continue to meet. Clash is inevitable, and all of our reflections on a future culture are becoming useless. It might seem as an irony, but the solution does not lie in quotas or fences. The solution lies in the understanding of values, and therefore the solution lies in the search of the coexistence of commensurable values. This is my conclusion. New Europe as Europe of commensurable values, which I will, as a future representative for the